This is, first of all, welcome to Brad, one of our superheroes, and this is our first builders or community builders workshop webinar. So thanks for being here, and thanks for Brad for making time, and also for making an awesome template that we're going to talk about today. Just a quick recap: we were trying something new with the community templates. We kicked off a challenge in November, saw a bunch of awesome concepts, picked 3 grant winners. One of those was Brad. And over the next few weeks, we're going to do webinars on the templates that Brad and Adam and Kat made. So this is the first. Next one will be in about 2 weeks. Our concept with this is to learn about a new template that can solve a problem for you in your personal finance workflows. To meet a community member, a superstar, a superhero in this case with Brad, and learn about how he thinks about tiller and personal finance and template development, and then also just to connect all of us together and be able to ask questions and learn from each other. So here's today's agenda. I'm doing the introduction right now. We're going to kick it over to Brad next. We're going to learn a little bit about the insights Brad gained through the process of making a template, and then we'll do a Q&A hopefully for about 15 minutes at the end, and you can just enter those questions in the Q&A sort of sidebar at any time, and we'll take them all at the end. And don't miss, we're going to do a recurring expenses template, another one of these community templates webinar in about 2 weeks, so don't miss that. So I am going to stop sharing my screen and kick it over to Brad, who's going to do a little demo. If I can just I can't find my mouse. Okay, here we go. All right, Brad, if you want to share your screen, go for it.
Thanks, Randy. Let's see if we can get this to work. Here it is.
Looks good.
So this is just a demo sheet. And the first thing I want to do, though, let me get this toolbar out of the way, is to actually bring the sheet, the category schedule, into my sheet. And so I'm going to open up the sidebar for the Tiller Community Solutions. It's going to give me a signal about starting a subscription, but I've already got one. This is a demo sheet, so I'm just going to bypass that for now. But this will be right here. All 3 of the template builder projects are listed together. This is the category schedule. Just click in here and scrolling down and add that to the spreadsheet, and it'll appear below right here. And I'm going to close out the Community Solutions window. So this is what it looks like. Comes in with some kind of stock data. But I'm going to give you, I'm going to get rid of some of this and, or actually add to it, or explain how I had done this before. But there's actually 2 sections of this sheet. And so the top is a summary, and the bottom is where you actually enter the components of your budget. So, one of the reasons I wanted to think about creating this was in this kind of budget scenario where you have categories and then numbers all the way across. I didn't know really what the numbers represented. I might have done some planning with my wife, or maybe on a piece of paper or another spreadsheet, said, where are we going to travel this year? What kind of landscaping we're going to do? And then I would bring those totals manually into my budget. But I wanted to carry a list of my thinking, and so created the category schedule to say, what will the components look like? So that when I looked at my budget on the category sheet, and then throughout the reports in Tiller, and I forgot why the budget looks this way in this month, I can come back to the category schedule and say, oh yeah, it's because we had planned to plant trees in February. And then I wanted also to have the capacity to say, well, this was our plan, like the landscaping for the year. But what if the plan changes and I decide I don't want to plant that tree, or I don't want to do this tree? And I didn't want to have to go in and manually change the budget and then lose kind of the paper trail on what my decision was. So this allows me in the active column to put a check mark and take it actually out of the budget, and then out of the summary at the top, and then of course over on the category sheet. So my plans might change too, and I'll put the items back in, and then the budget changes too. So this is fairly straightforward from a lot of us as spreadsheet users. The key, though, is found in this cell right here, and that is where the connecting formula is. that takes this summary for each of the categories and actually puts it into the category sheet. So after highlighting that formula, just hit Control C and come back to the categories. And I'm going to focus on household for now. So here's my household category, but I want to link the category schedule to my category sheet. So I'm going to highlight this cell and then just right click and hit paste and see that that formula is then applied to my January month for household. And then if I wanted to carry this forward, I'm going to highlight January and then drag it all the way across to December and see the category schedules totals pop in. So now my category schedule and my category sheet is linked. And any changes I make here, I can make also are happening automatically in my category sheet, and then they're reported throughout the tiller area. So that's basically, how the thing developed. One other thing to think about is we added the capacity to you create tags on the fly. So if I were to enter these items now, I could just I could put backyard here. And then the tag area is generated for me automatically. So if I wanted to go to my transactions tab and follow my actual work according to the budget I had proposed here, I got to get these tags to my tag sheet. So you may not have a tag sheet, but I use tags with my transactions. And so a quick, easy way is just to right click and copy these tags to a tag sheet, find an empty cell and paste them down. And then I'm not quite sure why those look like that. And then the transactions, they now become available. So for example, my clean cut lawn care, this became a lawn care service. Pleasant Nurseries was a backyard tree, and so on. And so what that allowed me to do then in a hidden area is to track my expenses. So I could say, did I actually buy that tree? And over here, we have an option to say, you can search the transactions for tags or subsets. I'm going to look for this tag called backyard tree. So I'm going to switch to tags. And then I'm looking for backyard trees. And in fact, it picks up that in February, I actually paid $300 for it. So two things to think about is this summary area or this search area for tags and subsets is optional. If you don't want to do it, just hide it. But if you're having an interest in finding where some of these expenses are in your plan in the transaction sheet, you can just take a look at it here and search for the tag or for the subset. Likewise, some people have asked, since this was launched, do I have to use tags? No, you don't have to at all. The power of the category schedule really is driving the components of a category over to the category sheet. Yeah. So there's one more thing I was going to say, and I can't think of it right now. Am I missing anything, Randy?
I don't think so. I think it's a great demo, and I think also it's worth noting that where you wrote up the solution and added some documentation in the community, there's an even more thorough demo that kind of goes step by step on building up these sort of category details. So there's more information available in video form if you want a demo.
Yeah, and I'll add also that when you're thinking about building out your budget for a category, it's good to start with this idea of a baseline. And the baseline provides budget space for items within the category that are not discrete. You're not sure what it's going to be, but you're going to say, I think we'll set aside $75 a month, for example, for landscaping. And then the items below it are the discrete items, the ones that you are planning to pursue that are not part of the baseline. And that's where you kind of get to see how these are mapped out throughout the category.
Awesome. So if you have questions, please go ahead and just start adding those to the Q&A section. I'm going to ask Brad just a couple more questions about sort of the process of this. So maybe, Brad, can you tell us about how long you've been a Tiller customer, and also how you use your what if there's anything kind of distinctive about your personal spreadsheet and how you use it?
Yeah, so we've been with Tillers since about the fall of 2018. My wife and I are recovering Quicken users. And so we left Quicken, and I was looking for an online budget solution that created really this spreadsheet. I need to see categories and I want to see across the month and I want to keep track of it across the year. And I couldn't find an option anywhere that let me see and manage this. And then I couldn't find an option anywhere that let me apply the category classifications to my transactions. And I couldn't find a solution anywhere that actually brought in all my transactions from all my accounts. And it was an amazing coming together of these things that we needed to see. We needed to see our activity every month. We needed to be able to apply the activity to our plan to see how we're pursuing it. Are we being successful or not? And then we needed to be able to plan for the year where we wanted to be financially. So the solution that Tiller solved for us was in one place, we were able to see almost everything. And we were able to see it on a day by day basis. We were able to manage it on a day by day basis. And it was something online that my wife and I could share in the cloud. So it wasn't desktop based like our other software package was. So it was flexible. It met our needs. It is easily expandable. And I will say, just like this example of being able to build something called a category schedule, it's amazingly customizable. So, spreadsheets are incredibly flexible. And so that's why we moved to Tiller. But it's one of the most frequently used reports we use is the year-to-date report. And that shows us just how we're doing with the budget. And the balance sheet is amazing. I know there are many users in the community that follow their investments with a little more detail than I need to. And there's amazing investment tools there. Randy, you've developed the savings budget. And I'll tell you, I don't use the savings budget because I need to, at the end of every year, have my financial sins forgiven. So I don't want to carry those forward. But I love being able to say, hey, we want to move some money from this budget to this budget and have a paper trail for it. It's phenomenally powerful. So I'm sorry, it's kind of a long-winded answer to an easy question. Does that make sense?
Let me ask you one more, and then we can see if there's questions. Through this whole process, you probably figured out a lot of the ins and outs of sort of developing a template like this. If someone else wanted to kind of follow in your footsteps and build something, what would be some of the things that you would think would be helpful for them to know that you learned?
I think the first thing and the most important thing is remember you don't have to have all the answers when you have an idea that you think makes sense. The thing to develop is what value will this proposed solution create or bring my spreadsheet or maybe the spreadsheet of others. But I had an idea of how this would work or should work, but I didn't have down to the bottom cell how we're going to make this thing look. And it was partnering with you and getting your expertise and your insight that really developed this into an option that many people could use. So if I had to have waited until I could have produced this on my own, I couldn't have done it. But I thought this was something I know that I wanted. And I was just grateful we could partner together to make it work.
Yeah, it was a real fun process, and I think that's an interesting point. There's been a lot of collaboration in the community around personal finance kind of riddles and discussion, and then there's been kind of show and tell. But I think there is an opportunity in the community to have a little bit more of I'm trying to build this thing like other builders. What do you think? Can you help me with this formula? I'd love to see that.
Oh yeah, I mean the community. There's some really bright and helpful people in the community, and I know there's tons of opportunity with people out there. So one of the values I have and why I enjoy being in the community so much is I learn so much from people who are willing to be experimental and kind of take a risk. I just admire that there are so many people willing to give advice or to say, hey, here's how I do it. And, I've been wrong several times putting an answer out there and someone else will say, hey, look at it this way. So it's a forgiving group, which is really helpful. But, when you're doing stuff like this, no one has all the answers, but together there's a real opportunity to put some value together and bring a method of finding answers to financial questions people have. Bring that into view quickly. It's really helpful.
Yeah, I love that about the community. I'm just overjoyed with all the activity there, including all the help you give to Brad.
Well, I will
Looks
tell
like,
you. I'm sorry. Go ahead. One of the reasons we moved to Tiller,
uh-huh.
the responsiveness
Oh,
of
great.
the staff and
Yeah.
the community. I mean, it was like, wow, I can get my questions answered. This is awesome. And I mean, it's rare. I still think it's rare. Sorry to interrupt
Yeah.
you.
No, that's great feedback. Thank you. Looks like we just have one comment and one question. So Joseph, who's also a big community contributor, says not a question, but just wanted to say I already have 38 subsets created and it's working great. And an added
Oh, wow.
feature I was just realizing I needed. Kudos. So
Oh,
kudos to you,
wonderful.
Brad. And Randy, for building this out for folks. And then Dennis asks, do you use a baseline budget for all categories or only those that you want to explicitly budget irregular expenditures? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a great question. Without the category schedule, every other category budget would look like a baseline. So a baseline for me, like for instance, if I had utilities here and I wanted to put $100 in, whoops, that was about 100, and then just pop it across all the way across, that would be a baseline for utilities for me. Same thing like for gear and clothing, you could do a baseline. This is an example. I wouldn't put it in here, but I would say, yeah, I'd like to spend maybe $100 on gear and clothing, but I'm going to buy these specific items too. It's going to cost, I think, this much. I think I'm going to buy it in these months. Then you add that to the baseline. So um, every item in your category sheet doesn't need to have a schedule attached to it. It could, but the schedule is really for managing categories that have both the baseline and the discrete.
Yeah, Brad, I remember in some of your early concepts, you would selectively use the category schedule in just a few of the categories that had that lumpiness, but then you would color the line or make it bold in the
Right,
category
right, right.
sheet to sort of let yourself remind yourself, okay, this one is one that is driven off the category schedule. It's not just out of this. So it would kind of, and I think we kind of considered having that in the instructions, but it was a whole separate sheet, and we wanted to kind of contain our the work to the new template. So that's something that users can do on their own. But I think that's a good idea.
Right, because without it, you might go, if you might forget that you've got a schedule attached to this and then overwrite it, and then it'll mess up or you'll lose the connection to that.
Yeah, I see that comment from Joseph in the chat about Joseph says I was making notes on categories to remind myself of what expenses happened in what months, which is not very scalable. But yeah, I was doing similar stuff as well, and I had a hard time sort of keeping that in sync. And like Brad said, the paper trail was kind of missing, and then when something shifted, it was really complicated to try to make that adjustment.
Yeah.
Such a powerful thing for sure. Dennis, let us know if that didn't answer your question. Looks like there aren't any more questions in the Q&A right now. So if you have a question, please go ahead and get it over to the Q&A. I have a question myself, Brad. I noticed that in your transaction sheet, you have a tags column that has a drop down menu. Can you share how you did that just while we're waiting for other
Yep.
questions? Like, I'm really curious.
Sure. So that this is the ability to go even further in specificity. So clean cut lawn care is a landscaping categorized transaction, but what really is it for? It's for lawn care service. So the way to connect this, first create a tag sheet, and then you can add, if you know your tags ahead of time, like I know at Christmas, for instance, I created tags for the people we were buying gifts for, and then I would put their names here next to the transaction. But the way to connect this is you create a tag sheet, create your tags, and then over in the transaction sheet, it's data validation. So you select one of the cells, click on data, go to data validation, and then it's going to ask you where to apply this and then where to get the tags for the list from the range. So it's saying that from in the column F2 to F, sorry, go to the tag sheet and the first column, A to A, pull those up so that I now have all those options available to me in every cell. And if I change something on the tag sheet, it'll change automatically for me and be available in the dropdown. There was a user, I'm sorry, I don't remember her name, as a follow-up to the category schedule that offered, there's another way to connect your tags from the category schedule to your tag sheet, and that was by using this formula. And this formula pulls a list of the tags from the category schedule automatically to your tag sheet, so that if you ever change the subsets or the detail and the tags change, it would know it and update your tags list automatically. So, and I think, Randy, I got this from your response to her, and I think I can put this in the chat if that would be helpful.
Yeah, just a quick note also about tags is one of the other builders, Kat, who's doing her demo, I think in February, also uses tags to track discrete travel expenses. So she's assigning tags where she might have a vacation category. She's using tags to assign expenses to specific trips that she's detailing out.
Right.
Another note about the tags column is there are just a few tags in the Tiller Community Solutions add-on. There's a few templates that are related to tags, and most of them try to work so you could have multiple tags actually assigned to a single transaction with a comma separating them. So right now, Brad's showing just a single tag. One challenge with the data validation is, depending on how you set it up, it might not allow you to add multiple tags. I think Brad has it set up as just show a warning, so he could actually type in comma and assign a single tag to two items. But yeah, if you do reject input, it would really only allow you to put a single tag, which for some people is fine, and for others that's limiting. Heather, it looks like maybe we have some new questions.
Yep. So Dennis asks, I'm having a little trouble differentiating the purpose of subsets. What do they do that tags couldn't?
That is a great question. The purpose is to create the tag. And it just creates levels of specificity. They're not required at all. So in fact, I mean, if you take this out, it doesn't affect the application of the category or the amount for the budget. So it was to say, for an example, if you wanted to get specific about what each of these amounts were, you could identify them. For example, this was a front yard tree, and this could be a backyard bush.
Brad, can you use subsets without details?
Yes, you can, just like that. So it's your preference. If you don't use tags, I would use the subsets and the details simply to identify the amounts in the columns, because I would forget, because I have a short-term memory. So it would help me remember, oh, this $450 expense scheduled for March in the landscaping campaign or catalog is for backyard. But if I thought, well, if I'm doing a lot of stuff in the backyard, if I'm doing mulch too, how would I differentiate between 850 and 450? So I would just put something like this in to help me remember. Does that help?
Yeah, let us know, Dennis, if that doesn't help. But that seemed like a pretty good explanation to me, Brad. John asks, could the template work for selected expenses, e.g. discretionary? Do you understand that one? I'm not sure I totally understand what John's asking there.
If he's, well, I would say, I'm not sure what discretionary means, except I tend to be a very planning oriented person. So I would anticipate even discretionary expenses, even in baseline or even in discrete, if they happen or they don't happen. So I tend to include everything I am aware of, everything I can think of in a financial plan. So it's not a commitment that it's going to happen. It's creating space in the eventuality that they could happen. but it's not necessarily saying I have to spend it.
Great. Yeah, let us know, John, if that helps, or Randy, if you have a different interpretation of that
No,
question.
I didn't. I was just going to encourage John to follow up if we didn't understand that properly. But I guess if that is it for the Q&A, I just wanted to thank Brad for all the concept, the hard work, and also for being here and sharing what he learned, and also for being a great member in the community. So Brad, really fun to work with you on the template over the last few months, and to see it go into the community and see users like Joseph already started making use of all the cool tools and hooks you added.
Well, thank you, Randy. Thank you, Heather. Thank you. You're great partners.
Awesome.
And I couldn't have done it without you. It's been a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brad. Yeah, Jennifer agrees. This seems like a great idea for budgeting subscriptions. I look forward to implementing it. So great job.
Cool. And then just as a last word, please, I think Heather will put this recording in the community, but please do keep an eye on that next session. It's about 2 weeks out with Adam. It's a template that helps you kind of scans your transaction sheet for recurring transactions, so you can find those like subscription fees that you forgot about, and start to trim out some of the fat in your budget that may sort of disappear into the chaos.
Yeah, I just put the link to register in the chat, so you can feel free to grab that. It looks like Dennis says, I'm going to say it differently. A budget line starts as a category, which can be further divided as subset detail when finer granularity than the category is useful. Yeah, I think
that's a great definition.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Y'all. Thanks so much. Thanks again, Brad.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.